Greetings shippers, welcome back, and it's time for another fic rec, not Friday, whatever day this is. We're wrecking fics. A lot of you wanted more Ineffable Husbands, and what you suggested was fic recs. So we're here, all the stars aligned. I was reading a lot of fics, you wanted the fics, we're gonna wreck some fics. Also, yes, they're behind me. It's a thing. It's been a fun month, what can I say? This is a fun fandom to hang out in. Lots of love in this fandom. It's a nice switch. So when it comes to wrecking fics for the Ineffable Husbands, there is a lot out there, but there's a lot of tropes that happen over and over again. So I tried to pick a unique bunch, but I'll still touch on some of those ones that are classics at this point. As always, we have to do our disclaimer. You can expect to find a wide array of fics here on this series. Dark, taboo, light, fluffy, some things that might make you go squick. We are going to cover it all. So it must be reminded to please not seek out reader, writer, wrecker for any kind of harassment. Different strokes for different folks. Fandom can be fundum, but we do have to work to keep it that way. In fact, in this episode, there's going to be some whump and dark fic. We're going to go all over the place. Smut, no smut, all of the things. I have pages. I had a notebook, it was professional, but I lost it in the move, and I didn't buy a new one. So yes. Number 1, By Your Side by Bisheltude. 5 chapters, word count 14,513. We're gonna start off with a trope that comes up a little bit in this fandom, but it's a classic in many others, and that is the amnesia fic slash mind wipe. So a lot of the fics in the Good Omens fandom take place post the post-apocalypse, the Armageddon, the whatever we're calling it. There are tons of different names. So this fic is a mind wiped Aziraphale fic. Who gets mind wiped can vary in these, so if you're looking for Crowley, you'll find that too. Just use those tags. In this fic, everything seems to be going well until Crowley goes to visit his angel at the shop and he doesn't remember him at all. He is just a human running a bookshop. This, of course, is devastating for Crowley as he finds out that this was Aziraphale's punishment, and his by proxy, as everybody had assumed that they were together and are actually quite stunned that no, they hadn't gotten together yet. The 6,000-year slow burn was still in full effect. Despite all of this, Crowley can't resist still spending time with Mr. Aziraphale. And Aziraphale, because you get both perspectives, finds himself falling for this eccentric, melodramatic, potentially alcoholic stranger. So it's a getting together fic in this continuity with a surprise happy twist at the end. So don't worry, you don't have to live in that quasi-Angstville. It builds, it's fun, it's tropey, and good for those who want a bit of a twist on the canon, and also who feel that these two wouldn't have just been left alone. From there, that was some mild angst. We're gonna go full angst, but with the caveat that it's gonna be okay at the end. Now, this fandom in general is very fluffy. It is a fluff lover's paradise, also a domestic lover's paradise. There is just so much in there. Also a good place for those who don't always want smut. The amount of smut is starting to catch up with other fandoms, but there's also a huge amount of asexual or just intimate fare that doesn't involve any kind of sex. But there's also the flip side, angst, darkness. Not as much as some other fandoms, but there is some there. So if you're the type of person who, yes, they love their fluff, but sometimes you just want your heart taken out, stomped on, spit on, left there a minute, and then put back in, this fandom has that for you as well. Fic 2 is called 5 Times Aziraphale Saves Crowley and 1 Time He Fails. Written by Captain Kieran, 6 chapters, word count 30,448. With this fic, each chapter is a different time something bad happens to Crowley. You've got holy water, you got demon hunters, I'm not going to ruin all of the chapters for you, and you've got the tragic last chapter where Aziraphale fails. Starting off with the caption, 3 months before Crowley's death. Just your heart in your chest, ready to be thrown out. This fic is so good, and it travels through the different eras as they all don't take place in the modern time, so you also get to see different snippets of the arrangement. This is particularly good for those people who wanted to see Aziraphale save Crowley for once. Crowley is always going around to the French Revolution, the Blitz, just saving Aziraphale from himself. Some people feel that Crowley would get into a decent amount of trouble being a demon and all with all the tempting he's supposed to do, so you know what? Maybe Aziraphale would have to come to his defense, and we all know that Aziraphale is BAMF. I can't believe I just said that. It's gonna date this video so badly, and I'm leaving it in. So from that kind of whump, because it's a lot of whump, There is a decent amount of whump in this fandom, usually towards Crowley. You'll find it the other way, but people really enjoy whumping on Crowley. For those who missed it, we did a video on whump and its origins, and it's a lot of fun, and also Daniel Jackson Stargate references, for those who feel we need to talk about Stargate. So from there, we're gonna go the opposite direction, full fluff, just pure fluff. This is for those who want to see these two get together. Finally, it's been 6,000 years, nobody is after them anymore, now is the time. This fic also features the picnic trope, which is also kind of can cannonball into the cottage, the Southdown cottage trope, which was actually referenced by Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett in an interview where they said that they would settle down together. Neil Gaiman posted this while waxing poetically in 2005. I think one of the key things to remember about human beings is their optimism and their faith. There were then several paragraphs of musings which ended with, which probably bubbled into my mind because Terry Pratchett and I were talking about Crowley and Aziraphale over dinner the other night, and wondering what they'd be up to on the South Downs. You really think so? It was very pleasant, honestly, like catching up with news of old friends. This was then followed up upon years later by a fan who went to an event and asked the question of what exactly the South Downs meant. After asking Terry and getting a vague answer, the fan would then go on to ask Neil Gaiman at his own event, and eventually got the answer, well, what they're doing on the South Downs is sharing a cottage. Next question. 3. Build Our Kingdom by Mackham. 1 chapter, word count 9,355. This fic is just the two of them getting together. It's just a very sweet build-up of Crowley just very gently encouraging the idea that now is the time. The time is now. And Aziraphale agreeing. It's just a slow burn of the two getting together finally and realizing that it's okay, it's safe, no one's coming after them anymore. They can have an eternity of picnics in the park. Actually, the park they pick, very, very special. Biblical references. It's really, really sweet. There are tons of fics like these in the fandom, so if you're in a mood, you can just honestly tweak your settings and go through all of these, but everybody has their favorites, and this is one of mine. So that was nice, wasn't it? Back to the whump. This one is even whumpier than 2. This one is, whew, this one's dark, man. The descriptions of the gore and the torture in this, fair warning, read your tags. Number 4 is called The Sins of Love by Feather Black, or Jaddy. 3 chapters out of 4 currently. Word count 18,685. Now you may be thinking, you don't normally rec works in progress, and no I don't, but my caveat for it is, I will rec it personally if I feel that even if it was never finished, it's still a wonderful fic that you can find enjoyment out of. And I feel that way about this so much. It was in fact only supposed to be 1 chapter, but then the author extended it. And I'm so glad. Keep extending it. This fic kind of plays with the idea that what if these two didn't get together? Just all of the habits of the hiding, the pretending, they were so ingrained that they just kind of went along the same way that they did. And in that process, Crowley gets kidnapped and he vanishes for a decade. But because the gaps of time and the way they measure it is so different, Aziraphale just thinks he's off doing something and not spending time with him, and that maybe he was wrong and maybe they didn't have anything special. But it turns out that Crowley was being tortured that entire time. And then he comes back and finds himself in the bookshop and one of his wings is missing. This fic is devastating. It is devastating, but really, really well handled, and actually has an aftermath to the whump. Some of the whump fics, it's very much, he's fine, which is wonderful because you want him to be fine. But sometimes you don't, and you need more angst. And this fic gives it to you. The first chapter is from Aziraphale's point of view, second chapter from Crowley's, and you see everything. And it's Gabriel doing it. So Gabriel's an interesting phenomenon in this fandom where most people don't like him, but it's not to a character bashy level as it is with, say, Luther in the Umbrella Academy. It's just he's the perfect foil if you need a jerk. You need a jerk, someone to come and hurt one of the boys, and make them feel bad? Gabriel's your man. But at the same time, there are also some interesting Gabriel introspective pieces, kind of dealing with how he feels about things, why he doesn't question why he is the way he is, and also a burgeoning pairing between him and Beelzebub. Yeah. Good fandom. I'm in a good mood today. Speaking of jerk Gabriel, number 5. This is Sticks and Stones by One Shot Shipper, which is a fantastic name. 1 chapter, word count 8,556. So one of the scenes that really didn't endear people to Gabriel is the body shaming scene. You know the one, he's jogging, people have noticed things. I'm just gonna leave that out there for those of you who want to be those people. And he ends up saying some things about Aziraphale's body, his weight, and how he feels it's not angelic. So This fic is a post-apocalypse fic where the idea is that things went back to normal, but just in every way. Heaven and hell are sending down commendations like they did something good, and they're just trying to get things back to normal. But there's still a bitterness there, and Gabriel comes to give Aziraphale a piece of his mind, and woo, it's not nice. Mean, very mean. And if you've ever had somebody chew you out or just say all of the things you fear about yourself back to you, this fic, it's too real. It's very real. This fic also plays with the idea that Aziraphale has low self-esteem and that the things that Gabriel and the other angels say, they get to him. And so in this, we deal with the concept that's played with sometimes in the fandom that the reason that Aziraphale doesn't confess his feelings or pursue the relationship, or why he feels that Crowley goes too fast, is because he doesn't believe that anybody could be interested in him. So he can't fathom why Crowley would care. This fic plays with that beautifully and also gets them together. And we get protective Crowley, maximum protective Crowley, and Gabriel gets his comeuppance. So as I mentioned earlier, there are lots of different types of fics in the fandom. So if you want smut, got you smut. It's right here. I got it for you. This fic is all smut, nothing but smut. The entire thing is smut. This is A Bolt from the Heavens by Colors Fly Away. 1 chapter, word count 11,235. All smut. This fic is the idea that after the 6,000 year slow burn, they can finally be physically together, and that the reason they hadn't been was that they were worried that people were observing, watching, and that they were going to find out about the arrangement and then they would never see each other again. So, with those concerns waylaid, just smut. Here we have top Aziraphale, bottom Crowley, body worship, the whole 9 yards. It is very descriptive, but in a very loving way. This is very much a making love style fic. But if you're not here for smut, stay away, because that's all this is. With a sharp focus on how much these two care for each other, and that's just peppering it throughout. Also, playing with time. This lovemaking apparently goes on 4 days, because they move in a different time scale than us mere mortals. I actually really love that about this fandom, the way that people play with time. It's really great. Let's go on to 7. Away from that loving, physical getting together fic to what if they got together, but there was a bit of angst there. Some of the things that were said over the years that have eaten away at the other. We're gonna take this from Crowley's perspective. The idea that those words have stayed with him, hurt him, and affected how he interacts with Aziraphale, that he's afraid sometimes to really go for it, to be too intimate, to touch him, to hug him, because he doesn't want to go too fast. This fic is called Like a Prayer for Which No Words Exist by Lips Stained Blood Red. 2 chapters, word count 8,198. In this fic, the two don't go to the Ritz, and Crowley goes home to have an existential crisis because he has to process everything that happened, thinking Aziraphale was dead, having to go to heaven. However, Aziraphale is ready to finally take their relationship to a more official level, but Crowley isn't, and in fact, he throws the "you go too fast for me" back at Aziraphale. This fic hurts for a bit, but then it's so good because they do, of course, find their way together, and it has a very understanding and apologetic Aziraphale. There are some who feel that Aziraphale would have to apologize for Crowley for letting him think for so long that he didn't feel the same way. Or just, you know, for the rejections that clearly hurt. That's the thing with this fandom. There are so many different takes of how things could or should go, but they all blend together very well for the most part. People are just excited that this fandom is booming. It's really fun. It's a fun atmosphere. Number 8 is gonna take us to a very common trope in this fandom with a twist. So we all know the famous burning bookstore scene where poor Crowley believes Aziraphale is gone forever and it just devastates him, and many people feel that should have been the shippable moments. There were images, it wasn't mentioned, but we all know how big of a moment it is. Also, shout out to the musical cues, because the music in that show is shipping them so much harder than some people ever could. Although, in all honesty, that would be pretty difficult because people are shipping them pretty hard. So, one of the things to come from that scene was the trope of the reversal. What if, instead of that, Aziraphale had gone and found the puddle of holy water and assumed that Crowley was gone? Or if they both went and found holy water, a burning bookshop, and felt that the others were gone? Yeah, angst, 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 angst. There are tons of those, so go seek them out if you want. This one is a bit different. This fic is called Suspendin Gravity by a hyperactive hero. 1 chapter, word count 4,695. This takes place after the "come stay with me" bus stop scene, where many people assume that Aziraphale spent the night because where else was he gonna go? But in this, he decides no, actually, he's not gonna spend the night. So, sadly, Crowley drops him off, but then he changes his mind and he goes back to the apartment. But Crowley's gone to bed, and so all he finds is a puddle of holy water and demon goop. And the angst as he assumes that it was all too much, his final rejection pushed him over the edge, but they still find their way together. This is very tropey, but it's very, very fun. And it's a twist on an already very used trope. That was very hard for me to say for some reason. On an already. Number 9. Speaking of tropes that are very used in this fandom, the headcanon that Crowley was the Archangel Raphael. You're gonna find a lot of variations of this, but this one's a little bit special. This one is called Archangel of Healing, written by Nim. 1 chapter, word count 9,316. In this, the concept is that Crowley was Raphael, he remembers it, and he just doesn't talk about it, largely because he can't even say the name because it hurts. There's a lot of that in this fandom, the idea that angelic things will hurt demons. Sometimes people even play with the concept that the two couldn't even touch each other. However, in this, Aziraphale finds out, and it alters how he views Crowley. In fact, he no longer feels that they are equals. So now Crowley has to deal with the past, his fall, his feelings about it, and also trying to rectify this relationship with Aziraphale and tell him that he is still the same Crowley. This plays a lot with religious imagery, religious knowledge, and backstory, so if you're here for that kind of thing, this is a great fic for it. And of course, these two soft boys end up alright. It's a really good entry point for the Raphael headcanon too. Side note, another Crowley headcanon you're gonna find a lot is that he suffers from chronic pain in his legs because he's supposed to be a snake, and so walking upright is difficult and hard for him. Just letting you know all the things. Number 10, speaking of religious symbolism playing with how we deal with things, we're gonna deal with religious smut. This fic is called Religious Ecstasy by Tenyo. 1 chapter, word count 1,632. This fic deals with the idea that these two have their chats during the time of the arrangement, and sometimes they turn philosophical or theological, and that they have some different ideas about angelic virtue and demonic virtue and where they overlap. So in this fic, Crowley is discussing how he had to perform a miracle and allow a female nun to have a religious experience, and how he feels that it was very close to a sexual one. So he dares Aziraphale to prove him wrong. This is one of those interesting fics that has sexless sex, which you'll find a decent amount of in this fandom. The idea that the sex or the physical coming together these two would have would be different because they are angels. And so they aren't bound by any kind of human dimensional bodies or any of the like. And in fact, they may find that kind of gross or messy or bodily fluidity. So they would come together in a different way. This fic has to deal with the idea that these two can push their energies together and that can create a very pleasurable feeling. In this fic, Aziraphale does it to Crowley to try to prove a point that it's not the same, which Crowley doesn't agree with. The two don't discuss what happened again until after the Not-pocalypse. Then it's Crowley's turn. 11. Don't have enough fingers anymore. 11. 11. This is going to take us to another common trope in this fandom, the nightmare trope, usually involving Crowley because he's the one who sleeps most of the time, although there are some fun fics where Aziraphale tries sleeping for the first time. This fic is called Forever by just_quintessentially_me. 1 chapter, word count 1,903. In this one, Crowley is having nightmares about what happened, and it's usually, as always, a nightmare about Aziraphale. This one's a bit different because most of the times the nightmares are about the burning bookshop or about Aziraphale having to go to hell. But this one deals with Crowley's anxieties about the fact that they're not free yet, that people could come for them. So he has a horrible nightmare about Aziraphale being executed right in front of him. This fic is about the aftermath and what happens when Aziraphale comes to him, and also plays with the concept that the two can sense each other, or at least sense their distress. So if you want to check out the nightmare trope, check that one out. Finally, one more, I'm giving you 12. This one I had to put. It speaks to me on a visceral level because it's about nail painting. If you've been on this channel for a while, you know how I feel about nail polish. Love it, collect it. Huge, massive fandom themed collection. The first fic I wrote in years, which I was also encouraged to by you guys, so thank you very much, after our Red Embrace playthrough, was a nail painting fic. So yeah, as soon as I found this nail painting fic, I had to wreck it. This is Came to Me in Colors by Found the Sun. 1 chapter, word count 2,481. So this plays with the idea that Crowley does his nails himself. It's just something he does for fun to unwind. He has a little collection, he sits down, gets the music out, paints it, you know, the whole thing. In this fic, these two are pretty much living together. And one night when Aziraphale is there reading, he expects Crowley to sleep, except he doesn't. He goes to get his nail stuff and paint his nails, and Aziraphale gets curious. And so Crowley paints his nails for him. This whole thing is just very intimate, from the color that he selects for him to the act of painting your partner's nails. It's a great example, one of many, of just how much people love these simple things. How this fandom can allow writers to explore different forms of intimacy, because there are so many out there, so much more than just the physical smut, which is so much fun as well, but also you can have these moments, and they come across in so many ways. Like this with the nail painting, you have the wing preening, there are so many preening fics. There's just a lot out there, but this is so sweet and so loving. Painting nails. You paint nails together for life. So those were a bunch of fics. This was different for me. I don't normally rec fics from a fandom that I'm currently reading in at that time, so there may have been more enthusiasm. I apologize for that. I hope that there was something there for you that you're hoping to read, or at least you got an overview and an idea of the stuff that you can find in this fandom. It's a lot. You're gonna have a good time. If you have read any of these, let me know what you think. If you have any recs for me, you know the deal, send them my way. I always appreciate it. If you need to know more about that Raphael headcanon, let me know, because I'll just keep talking about these two. Although we're about to go back to Stucky for a little bit for the Patreon requested video. As always, thanks so much for taking some time out of your day to spend it discussing ships with me, and in this case, listening to all these recs. It's been a while since I've been able to be on camera with you, but we're all set up. Hopefully we can live stream again soon. It's gonna be a good time. Thank you so much for joining me. And a special thanks to everybody who's checked out and subscribed to the new channel, Casually Comics. I really appreciate it. Two passions, shipping, comics, all of it, sometimes together. On that channel, we keep it real casual and we look at a variety of different comics. We follow no rules. Rules are made to be broken, unless you're Gabriel. I will of course see all of you again soon. Until then, please do all the things, like, share, comment, subscribe, and stay tuned, for there are as many ships out there as there are stars in the sky. Special thanks to all of my patrons' names on the side for helping to make all of these videos possible. We always have a fun vote going on, so if you're interested, head on over there and check it out. We get some great pairings that way. I will of course see you all again when I can. Bye-bye.